Once, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome everyone to the December meeting of the Union Township Planning Commission, which is taking place in the dark of night because it's December. We had Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Hayes.
Here.
Lapp.
Here.
Olver.
Here.
Thering.
Here.
Squadrito.
Here.
I have Brown and Gross excused, and I have not heard from McDowell.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a quorum now.
Yes, we have a quorum, so we will proceed. So we had roll call, approval of the agenda. So you have tonight's agenda in front of you. It's a short agenda. We do have one new business item, plus the usual items that are on our agenda every time. Are there any additions to the agenda that anyone's aware of?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Thering. We'll give the second to Hayes to approve the agenda as prepared. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, so the agenda is approved. Next item is the minutes. We last met on November 19th. And so you have the November 19th minutes beginning on page 3 of your packet. I will mention I have two small things. Under roll call, can you insert a comma between McDonald and Olver
Yes.
so that we don't think that our Olver has an evil twin named McDonald? And then on page 2, the first full paragraph, line 1 is McDade and line 2 is McCade. And I don't know the man's name, but if we could have it like be the correct name.
I'll have to look at the application and see what the correct
Okay.
spelling is.
That's fine. I just noticed it. Anything else?
That is a good commission chair who spots the missing
Yeah.
column. You have done your homework, sir.
Okay, well, if there aren't any, we could have a motion to approve the minutes with minor corrections.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, motion by Olver, second by Thering to approve the minutes with a couple of minor corrections. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor of doing that, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the minutes are approved. Next item is correspondence, board reports, and presentations. First item is Commissioner Thering, updates from Board of Trustees.
Thank you, sir. So what I have done in my notes are we conducted the first reading of the township initiated rezoning of lot 943 South Isabella from I-1 to R1. So that first reading is complete. We will be having the second reading tomorrow. And would it be inappropriate to ask a question about that, just to get the board's recollection? I have a question, but maybe this isn't really the time to do that. Mr. Chair?
I'm curious what the question is.
Well, it's one thing that I completely overlooked when we were talking about this particular subject, and it's been a while since we've done this, but I did not, and I may be completely wrong here, but I did not realize that the family that was in here wasn't the owner of the property. It's labeled on the in the agenda, the owners, I believe that the family that was in here, it was a daughter or a relative.
It is a family-owned property.
Mhm.
The aunt, I think, is involved in the ownership, but it's a family-owned property. It's not rented, it's not in our rental program.
It's not rented. The tax, looking on the tax roll, it has a same last name but two different first names.
It is not part of our rental housing inspection program. It may be, and I don't know the exact relationship in terms of the ownership there, but the aunt certainly expressed an ownership interest. But if it's a family situation, it's not part of our program.
So they are part owners then.
My understanding is it is a family property. It's not, there's no other outside owner besides the people that you saw at the meeting.
So the tax roll looking at the assessor, looking at the tax roll and the sales, so the last one that has, I think, a Kenneth and Jean Kinderis, they are,
All I can tell you is that it is a family-owned property, and it's my understanding that you have met the owners. That there's no other outside owner involved in this.
I mean, typically though, wouldn't everybody's name be listed?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. I guess my reason was asking is I thought, I'm sure if it was family, not that they would have an issue with the rezoning, but shouldn't the owners have some sort of identification or some sort of letter indicating that that's what they would approve?
Well, this was a planning commission initiated rezoning.
Right, understood,
So
100%.
There's not a private applicant, the planning commission initiated this. In terms of ownership, there's a number of ways that property can be owned. Land contract, for example, that we would not have on the assessor's record there in the ownership information, we would not have the land contract information noted because that's a private contract between parties. So, as I said, I don't know all the details of the ownership arrangement, but it is my understanding that the people that you saw are the owners of that property in whatever form that they have set up amongst themselves. There is no outside owner beyond the people that you've met.
Okay. So we know that they would approve it. Could the planning commission ever put forth a zoning change without notifying an owner?
Certainly this one, the owner was notified.
100%, right on, yep.
The one exception to that is if we are adopting a comprehensively updated zoning map. The state act, I believe, referred to where we are rezoning 11 or more contiguous parcels as part of the broad rezoning.
Okay.
We do not have to notify every property owner of that. And in fact, that was the case when we updated adopted our current zoning ordinance. The following year, we updated adopted amendments to the zoning map to correspond to the new ordinance. And as part of that, we did not provide individual notices to all the property owners. We put a notice in the newspaper and all that, but we were rezoning far more than 11 contiguous parcels for that. So we were not required to notify individual property owners.
Is that state law or is that?
That's state law.
Okay. I'm still a little uneasy about, I'm sure I'm just not, I know what you're telling me is 100% the truth.
Well, I would expect that the family would be at the meeting tomorrow. I certainly wouldn't be surprised. We don't notify them, but
Right.
they certainly were aware that it's going to be coming back. And it's a good question to ask.
Okay.
Does
That
that
was it.
conclude your report?
Oh, no, sorry. That was kind of,
The first part.
rolling through my mind a little bit, so question answered. We did a 1-year extension with the fire service agreement with the city of Mount Pleasant. We renewed that. And we reviewed some of our governance policies, which is basically how we as a board, are going to work with the township manager. Just one of those things is, one of the governance policies that we worked with was emergency township manager succession. So it's very important for us to know that if the manager would, for some reason, have to step down for whatever reason, that he has a plan, he or she has a plan in place, in which case our manager does with our directors. One of them would take over, or maybe collectively. He has said he works with them to help them prepare to, if need be, step in. So we have all the confidence if that should ever take place. So yeah, it's just little house cleaning stuff with the governance policy. We just like to go over once a month. We go over so many of the governance policies, and just we reread them to see if is it time to make a change. Do things look good? And
Mhm.
so that's it.
Okay. We'll open it for questions. I have a couple of questions. The rezoning, did you have a public hearing?
We did. We had well, yeah, we have a first reading and then a second reading, and at the second reading, if we so agreed to, we adopted at the second reading. So yeah.
Okay, but is there a public hearing at the township board level, or is it just us?
The public hearing is at the plan commission.
Oh,
level,
just
but-
at our level, okay.
But there is a notice required to go in the newspaper and posted here at the hall and on our website
Mhm.
between the first and second reading. So that notice went in the paper a week or so ago.
Okay,
Just notifying the public of the second reading coming up on
Yeah.
the 18th.
but are they given an opportunity to address the township board if they want to, public? I mean, they can always do it during your regular public comment, I assume.
And they have during the public comment.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, was did anybody say anything about it? Do you have any sense, is there opposition? Does it seem like it's okay, or?
We'll find out tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
But people have had their say.
I have not received any notification. Well, wait a minute, I take that back. We've had 2 people come forward in opposition,
Hmm.
and with their reasons.
Okay.
And then, of course, the families, they would like to.
Yeah.
Is there a tremendous cost or a minor cost for the town? Because it's township initiated.
I think it's actually in your report. The cost of the notices is less than $800 total.
Okay.
There are three notices. We've done 2 of the 3. The third notice would be the notice of adoption if it is adopted.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess one other question, it's an unrelated matter, but is the township affected directly by the termination of the road patrols? And are you dealing with that in any sort of way?
Well, I think everybody's affected by that, not just the township. I mean, as far as I don't really feel there's anything that we can do. I
Hmm.
mean, it happened, and I think the whole county's unfortunately having to accept it. I mean, nothing that I recall where the township has taken an action or in regards to that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Other questions for Commissioner Thering on Board of Trustees related items?
Just a process question that I think fits in here. We have 3 planning commissioners whose terms expire in February.
Mhm.
Does that go on the board agenda in January? Just what's the timeline and process for that?
Yeah.
Renewal or replacement?
I mean, technically, we could reappoint or appoint someone new at any time, really. Typically, what I have seen as a board, we wait until very close to that term to give as many people who would like to apply, including the person that's on the board,
So the current person reapplies for a new term?
if they'd like to, if they wish to.
So it isn't one of those where I choose to stay, so that's just it?
No,
Okay, so it's a
No.
reapplication process.
it's a reapplication. Yep. And yeah, like I said, we typically have waited close to that term to allow as many people to give people time to apply.
Sure. Okay. So the folks whose terms are up in 2 months, they would be aware of this? They would know that
Yes.
they're
Oh, yes.
reapplying?
Yep.
Okay. Just being new, I didn't have that information, so.
Yep.
Well, just looking at the list, our two newest members, terms expire 2/15/25. I'm assuming because they were appointed to fill the remainder of a couple of existing terms, one of whom is Commissioner Hayes and the other one Commissioner Brown. So presumably hopefully they will submit an application to continue, and presumably the board has recently looked at their credentials and so on, but you never know. I mean, if, 3 or 4 more applications come in, who knows, it's up to the board to decide, but.
And I wouldn't wait. I mean, fill out the application now and get it turned in, and then
Yeah.
you're covered, so.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? All right, so thank you for that report, and next item is updates from ZBA, but Commissioner McDonald's not here, and I don't think they met this month, so we'll assume there's nothing there. Next item is the Community and Economic Development Monthly Report, which you have in your packet. Once again, we always give the commission the opportunity to ask any questions that they might have on this thorough report of essentially activities of the township staff regarding planning activities, zoning activities, all kinds of things. This starts on page 8 of your packet. If there are any questions for Rodney and/or Peter, ask them at this time.
As in regard to the department's monthly report to James, if we have any questions we're asking of him?
No, it's actually prepared by Rodney and Peter,
Okay.
so.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, when it comes to zoning services, rental inspection services, are we able to keep up with the demand? Do you feel like there's enough staff on in order to perform the inspections that are needed on a routine basis?
I'm very appreciative of our staff. We have a new rental inspector, who just started this past fall, and he jumped right in. We had a almost 2 months gap between inspectors, and so there was a backlog, and he has reduced that backlog to very few at this point already. So he's been an excellent addition to our staff. So we're very happy with where we are at this point.
The staffing wise?
Yeah, and we do have access, as part of the budget, there's money available for hiring outside consultant, or if there's a need for project support or something like that. We've had a long-standing relationship with consulting for McKenna Associates, the firm that put together our updated zoning ordinance. And we've used them in the past. For example, we had a McKenna contracted building official for several years. So we do have access to additional resources if we need on a short-term basis.
Yeah, I was going to ask just because I know going out and campaigning in the fall, you can hear from a lot of constituents in some of the rental properties, they're feeling like maintenance is an issue for them, and when they complain about maintenance issues coming through and then not really seeing any movement or change. So I can understand if we've been 2 months behind.
Well,
waiting on.
what I will say was that we have to keep in mind that our program is an annual inspection and certification. So we're not in the department every day. However, we absolutely do receive and act on complaints.
Okay.
So if somebody has a complaint about maintenance in an apartment, they're welcome to give our rental inspector a call or email, and he will check into it, and we will go out and inspect.
Handle it on case, I handle it like on case to case.
Right, because
Okay.
there are certain elements that are simply violations of our basic standards, and so if in between certifications, there's a violation, our rental inspector will address it.
Okay.
And
So those are all generated by complaints from.
somebody needs to let us know,
Okay.
because we're simply not in the apartments. Certainly, when they go through the apartments, they have a pretty detailed checklist, and they're looking for those same things, those same issues, and if they find them, they're called out and corrected before the apartment's certified. But anytime a tenant has a maintenance concern that's not being addressed by the community, obviously they should start with the community. But if they're seeing something that's not being addressed, that truly is a maintenance issue, a safety issue, they are welcome to contact the Township Rental Inspector.
Yep. Yeah, great, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate answering the question.
Do you all have a sense for when we'll entertain the proposal for the Mid-Michigan College Event Center, when that will come up?
Oh, we did meet, as you saw the report. This was the first conversation. I would not be surprised to see something in the new year, but as to timing, I don't know. At this point, as I said, what they were looking at was conceptual. I will say they were comfortable enough that they were not concerned about sharing this way. I mean, you've seen sometimes in our reports where we'll say we met with a developer about a project, not a whole lot of detail. And this one, they were comfortable that we let folks know that they're planning this project. They are very excited about it.
Other questions?
I do have another question. It's a chicken question. Sorry, Rodney.
Roasted or fried?
Mr. Nanny, what's that?
Roasted or fried?
Well, either way. I believe we touched on this at our last meeting, and I know the Board of Trustees kind of referenced it. And what we have in our packet is more zoning, But I believe we talked about, and I'm confident you gave us the answer, and I just cannot recall. Is it possible that we can develop an ordinance that specifies what you can have on a property that is zoned for animals? Like the R1, so somebody who lives on half an acre can't have 30 chickens.
Well, if you don't mind, kind of lay out what we have right now. Actually, Peter, would you be willing to kind of just explain how the current ordinance works for the?
So, we do have an exception. There's no regulations in an ag district or R1 district. For the other residential districts, there is no size requirement of the lot, whether it's an acre or under an acre. The exception to have animals that are farm animals is, I believe it's up to 4 animals that you can have, and they have to be for an educational purpose, and they have to be contained within the rear yard. So if you have no more than 4 contained in the rear yard of the property, and it's for an educational purpose, and you live in a residential district that is not ag or R1, of course they're not permitted in industrial or business or anything like that, that is the one exception that you can have.
So we would have to do something to make that apply to R1?
So the the short answer is yes. The longer answer is this is an area where the R1 is a rural residential district. It's an area that's part of our rural buffer, intended to stay rural in character. And so this is an area where keeping of farm animals can run into the Right to Farm Act, where if it is a farming operation, or if it can be considered an agricultural operation, then the Right to Farm Act simply says, yes, they can do that. And so areas that are zoned agricultural and areas that are zoned R1 that are active farming operations can simply have farm animals. And At best, they're governed by state rules. There was the generally accepted agricultural management practices that the State Department of Agriculture has promulgated that are essentially, I think they're referred to as rules, but they're guidelines that people are encouraged to follow in terms of manure control, those kinds of things. For properties that in the R1 district that are not considered a farm, so truly rural residential in use, right now, they could have chickens, they could have farm animals. Our ordinance allows that as a permitted use by right. We certainly could adopt standards, just as we do for other land uses, that might include limitations on the number or the types of animals. It is something that we would need to look at pretty carefully, and look at, first of all, property, lot size and that sort of thing. There's some elements to look at, but it certainly can be done. Some communities are allow broadly keeping of chickens on rural properties, residential properties. As I said, you heard from Peter, we have a fairly narrow exception, but we certainly could adopt updated standards if we choose to.
Yeah, I got kind of mixed emotions about that. I mean, I think something like that would help with what we have going on tomorrow, but that's not something we could make as a stipulation tomorrow. We couldn't, that'd have to be something that the planning commission would have to work with you and Peter on, and then present to the board if we wanted to do something like that.
Well, certainly the board board of trustees has every right to basically ask the planning commission or direct the planning commission to look at this topic, if the board chooses to. But the process under the State Zoning Act would start with the planning commission. Yes, it would start with the draft ordinance coming to the planning commission and a hearing by the planning commission that would eventually come back to the board, just as that rezoning application did.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate both of you, so thanks.
I think if you ask any more chicken questions, I'm going to start calling you Colonel Theron.
Hey, that's good. You know what? I don't blame you one bit.
I understand.
Thank you so much for
It's come
allowing me.
Where are we? Were we still on the community report?
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the community report? All right, we'll move on. Any other reports or just things that people need to bring up at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Next, we go to public comment. This is the portion of our meeting which is for public to comment on items that are not on our agenda tonight. So if there's any member of the public, either in person or online, who would like to comment on a non-agenda item, they're welcome to do so at this time. We ask you to give us your name and address for the minutes and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comment is open at 7:30.
I do have someone in the room, but I think that she's here for the agenda item.
Okay.
But I did unmute her, give her the opportunity if she wants to speak.
Okay. All right, well, seeing no public comments being offered, we'll go ahead and close public comment at 7:31. We have an extended public comment later in the meeting if anyone is so inclined. So we're ready to move on to new business. The item tonight is a combined preliminary and final site plan application for upgrades to the Township's water treatment plant at 5228 South Isabella Road. And so we'll have introduction from Rodney and then we'll proceed.
Well, thank you. We do have our Township engineering consultant, Jennifer Graham, on Zoom. Of course, Ken Smith, our public services director, is here for this application. So I'll just give a quick overview of go forward. You should have a report dated December 10th. I did notice that we managed to sneak a typo in on the first page under the action. It says there, the action is about preliminary site plan. This is not, this is a combined preliminary and final. This is an option that applicants have under our zoning ordinance to, rather than come in separately for a preliminary site plan approval, in certain cases to combine them together into one action. This was done in relation to where the project planning was at the time of our November meeting, and also because of the scope of the project, it seemed a good option to simply pursue it in this format. So that the outside agencies, basically between preliminary and final site plans, when all the outside agency approvals and permits are handled, and so all that was looked at and incorporated into the plans that you see tonight. So you see there are 2 dates on there. The main plan set dated October the 1st, but there are several sheets in the plan set that were modified, revised, and they have a date of December 6th on them. And that, to some extent, that's reflected in the detail in our report as well, which I'll explain in a moment. This is what our ordinance calls a non-conforming site, which simply means it was developed before our current zoning ordinance site development standards were adopted. So there may be elements of the site that don't conform to the current ordinance, landscaping and various elements like that. And the non-conforming site section allows you to review and take action on a site plan where not everything is brought up to the current standards. The ordinance has 10 broad categories that you see on page 2 of our report, page 37 of the packet. And in this section 12.5, non-conforming site simply asks that at least 3 of the categories be satisfied. In this case, as you can see there bolded, there are 4 of the categories that have been satisfied, so they met that requirement. So, for example, you won't see comments in our report about landscaping because that was not something that was part of the scope here, and so no changes are planned to some of those elements. As you said, in our report, you'll see a whole lot of the word conforms listed, a whole lot of checkbox bullet points there. We did review the original October 1st site plan, and there were a number of details, these items that are checkboxes that needed to be addressed on that plan. They were addressed in the revisions, so the revisions that were added, dated December 6th, addressed all of them except for one, and we'll cover that in just a moment. But I do want to make clear, all these items that are noted as conforms all the way through have been addressed in the plans you have before you. So parking, exterior lighting, trash removal, and all those items. The only item that is outstanding is related to sidewalks. This is an area that is not part of the priority roads for sidewalk construction. This stretch of Isabel Road is not in that list of designated roads that we have in the sidewalk policy. And it's an area that does not have any sidewalks currently. So the applicant has noted that on the plan, sheet C 2.2. They've put a request on the plan for a temporary approval of temporary relief from sidewalk construction. And that is entirely consistent with our policy to grant that relief for this site. As we note in our report, we objection to you taking that action. The only item outstanding is that they did not show the connector sidewalk that our ordinance requires, going from the public sidewalk up to the building. It's a very simple addition, and so we've simply made that a condition to ask them to simply show where that sidewalk would be if it were to be constructed in the future, at some future date. This is not something that we don't need to have it engineered right now. It's simply to show it, and there is space on the site to really show it. I think the only change that might have to happen beyond obviously constructing a sidewalk would be to put a gate through the existing fence, a pedestrian gate. But none of that is something that we're recommending be required to be constructed right now. But to be consistent with our sidewalk and pathway ordinance, these elements need to be depicted on the plan, along with that request for relief. So you'll see, if you turn to the final page of our report, page 40 of your packet, you'll see a recommendation there. And it does recommend approval of the plans, which would include the request, approval of the request for temporary relief, because it's on the plan. And then we have the one condition, and that condition that is stated there simply says that a sidewalk connector from South Isabella Road to the building be shown on the revised plan for administrative approval before a building permit is issued. So, as I said, this would not be a requirement for construction if you grant the waiver, the temporary relief, but we do need it on the plan to be consistent with what we require other developers, other folks are coming before you with the site plan to do. They show it the same way that they do. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Since you're on that page, under the key findings, the second, they're not bullets, they're blocks, but in any case, the last sentence says, as presented, the site plan is not sufficiently complete for final site plan approval. Is that conditional on what is shown in the recommendation below, or was that an earlier statement?
That was an earlier statement. That actually should have been changed. It is, at this point, ready for your final action. This one condition is truly a housekeeping item, and so we're going to have no concern recommending this for both combined preliminary and final site plan approval.
Okay. Other questions for Rodney while he's up here, before we hear from the applicant and then move into our deliberations?
I suppose just a process question, but the part about this that strikes me is it's Union Township applying for something through Union Township. Is that's a typical protocol then to go through for uniformity and?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Could this project have simply gone on without any action from you? I suspect it probably could. This is an essential service to the township. It is township-owned project. It is important, and it was important to, from the very beginning, to respect the fact that we should follow the same requirements that we require others to follow. And so that's why the plan is before you. That's why it was reviewed based on the same standards. And it's why we're asking for this small details to be shown in the plan, because we ask the same thing of others that for which temporary relief is granted where it's warranted.
I find that approach refreshing. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions for Rodney while he's up there? Okay, thank you. So now, if Kim or Jennifer, if there's anything you'd like to say, you're welcome to address us at this time.
Well, I'm on Zoom, and I'm happy just to provide a quick overview for the project itself, if that's acceptable to the Planning Commission to do that.
Sure. You're actually, I don't know if you're our first electronic visitor or you're one of the few, so we're happy to have you.
Well, I'm excited, and again, no, I appreciate the opportunity, so thank you, especially when there's poor weather conditions, which actually isn't the case right now. But I happen to be coming down tomorrow to do some site visits, and so this worked out well. So again, I appreciate everyone's time tonight, and to put a face with the name, I'm Jennifer Graham, and I've had the pleasure of being the Township's engineer record for most of my career at Gordon Fraser, which is now 20 years, and it goes by fast. So with that being said, yes, we don't have too many opportunities to have a project present to this commission. I appreciate staff's assistance in this process. Rodney provided a great overview of the project itself. I was involved in the original design back in 2010 for the project, and it was prior to some of these ordinances being put in place. There was a large level of effort to ensure just general compliance with the sites, but here we are almost 15 years later in capacity where we're looking to do expansion and improve our water system supply that the township provides, improve capacity, water quality, and even more so that we're fortunate that the township itself received a grant to fund this project. So that's even more exciting for us to be involved in this process. So itself, we're looking at doing a 4,000 square foot expansion, which will entail additional infrastructure in-house, iron removal filtration, and then some other associated amenities, including chemical feed, providing a safe and ventilation and temperature-controlled environment to house the chemical feed equipment, which is definitely a betterment just to the health and safety to not only the customers, but staff at the facility. We're able to provide with this project on-site additional pole barn, and then some site improvements and elements, as you guys see in some of the site plans. So with that overview process, we did go through the respective review agencies and received their feedback and support for the project. And then, of course, Ms. Smith is in the audience as well to speak to anything in particular. We did look through stormwater circulation and then ensure that we, working with Peter in your office, he had provided us his findings back dated December 3rd, and worked through him and did reflect some adjustments to the plans to show some basically I'm at a loss for words. Parking, where all the existing parking spaces are, but then also storage and mobilization areas. And then we did briefly speak to the sidewalk piece, and I guess something that I would look and advocate to this commission on related to the sidewalk element and the waiver. We did illustrate, correct, the sidewalk that fronts the road, consistent with the ordinance, but one thing that we, I guess, would ask for concession on and consideration from this planning commission would be with respect to the sidewalk as it goes to the facility itself on site to the front door. With the facility, as most of you can appreciate, it does provide an essential service and municipal water supply. We do have quite a bit of security issues that we have to comply with, not only with the state of Michigan, who regulates our facility, but also with EPA. And that entails security as far as site access, cybersecurity. There's a number of components to ensure that we provide protection of that water system and to your customers. So with the sidewalk coming to the front door, that does create some concern because we want people who come to the facility, it's intentional and they're invited. We don't want to make it a known facility and building that we have uninvited customers come to and guests, just because of the security and sensitivity of the service we do provide. So I just wanted to provide some context to this planning commission with intentions that you guys take that into consideration. Otherwise, no, it's a great project and we appreciate everyone's support and your review and input on it. And I'm here and available to answer any technical questions, and if Ms. Smith wants to elaborate on anything else besides, we're both available and attentive. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kim Smith, Public Services Director for the Township. Thank you, Jennifer, for the overview. I would just like to reiterate Jennifer's her comments about the sidewalk from the road to the building. We are required to secure the site. We have three wellheads, a 500,000 gallon storage tank that are outside of the building. So allowing access and cutting an access into the fence that currently runs along the front of the property would be problematic for us. We are required under the EPA and Eagle to secure the site. They do inspections, as well as we were required to send and provide them a safety plan, as well as a asset management plan, which looks at the safety of the site. So that would be problematic for us. I do understand that it is in the ordinance. It seems like maybe when the ordinance was developed, that just wasn't thought about, which I can totally understand because it's not something that occurs on a regular basis, that we would be here in front of you for a site that is our critical piece of infrastructure. This is our main water plant. We are actually in the process of running a water main from a new well into this site, and a lot of the water that is delivered to the customers of the township and the visitors in the township come from this site. So we would we would appreciate if there could be some consideration to not have that shown on the plan, so that if the waiver in the future is ever, if we are ever required in the future to put the sidewalks in in the front of the site, that would not be on the site plan to come up to the site. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any. And Jennifer's here as well to answer any specific questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. So we've heard from township staff, we've heard from the applicant. Next step is commission review of the site plan. So it is before us, it's open for discussion. The applicants are here to answer any questions that commissioners have.
I had a question regarding to the reduction of iron. Do we have a particle per million number that could be actually used to kind of as a benchmark of what we might see as a reduction when the new pumps are put in? And then the enhanced filtration? Just because as a common concern you get from a lot of constituents is taste. How is it coming apart? And I know that's a big part of it, so I know it'd be a good thing to promote if we can say that we're getting a reduction in this iron that's going to be a quantitative amount that people will notice.
We currently remove iron from the water.
But that was one of the parts in the thing here is that, it'll be...
Well, what we're doing is we're expanding the iron removal. We are putting in another source well, and so we will be pumping more water through this site. When our water goes out the system, it's already at 0 parts of iron because we're already currently removing it.
Okay.
There are occasions when we may have some breakthrough iron, like when we're flushing hydrants, or if there's something going, if we're doing some maintenance on like an iron removal filter or something. But normally the parts that go out to system are 0, because we're already removing the iron from the
Great.
system.
Thank you.
So, just on clarification, the recommendation from the staff is to include the sidewalk connector in the plan, but not to require the sidewalk to grant the temporary relief?
So we're simply following the ordinance with regards to that. What I will say is this. The temporary relief element is a policy. And so it's a guideline. Actually, I would have loved it if the language that was shared tonight about the state rules had been included as part of that request for temporary relief. It would have made this a lot simpler. In light of the direction given to you about the state security and safety requirements, my suggestion simply would be, if you choose to go that route, would be to make any approval, just simply include a finding as part of the approval motion that the section of sidewalk going to the building is not appropriate because of the need to comply with the state security and safety requirements. That would be also consistent with our policy. It would not be consistent with the ordinance, but the relief would be consistent with the policy that you set.
Other questions and thoughts from commissioners on anything to do with this application?
What is the proposed timeline for completion?
So construction on this project would begin next year. We did, the board has approved a contractor, it has been bid, and the project has to be completed under the grant by September of 2026. So we'll be under construction next year and part of 2026 for the total project.
Thank you.
And how long would the increased capacity be able to hold over for us? Like how far future-proof does this put us?
Right now, up to about 10 years. Of course, that can change based on if we get a big development or if water use goes down. I mean, there's things that impact that, but right now, we're looking at 10 years, yes.
With a project like this, it's often an opportunity to ask these types of questions about broader issues. Compared to, say, 10 years ago, given the decrease in enrollment at CMU and things like that, has the curve in terms of the increase in demand, has it bended noticeably? In other words, is it not increasing as fast as it once was?
It's not as increasing as fast as it was, say, in like 2009, 2010, when the township had an abundance of growth. But we are still seeing an increase in use. You know, the need for another well, additional iron removal, that was all part of our plan for several years, and we have come to that point where we need that. But it is not as drastic as it was when the township went through the huge growth spurt that it did back in those days. I mean, we were having a hard time just keeping up back then, because we had so much growth, you know, that came in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Other questions? So you heard the suggestion from Rodney. I would suggest, you know, if someone wants to make a motion, that we attempt to kind of append and wordsmith the finding into that, in terms of if it's the will of the commission that we find that the sidewalk, or the sidewalk extension from the main sidewalk to the building is not appropriate under the circumstances, based on you know, state law and other regulations.
I feel as though you've captured that, and I look forward to supporting the motion to do just that with the appropriate wording.
Okay, but as chair, I don't make motions, so if someone else would like to make the motion, I'm happy to help wordsmith the final result.
I'm trying to figure out where you would put it in that motion.
So you could actually, if you're looking at the various motions we have, if you look at page 41, the middle motion is approval of the combined plan subject to conditions, where you simply change that word condition to subject to the following finding, and then add the finding below that.
Thank you for that clarity.
And I would ask if you would to, in terms of the date, just note both the October 1st date and the December 6th date. You can just refer to it as dated October 1st and December 6th, 2024.
I don't make motions, I'm the
No,
chair.
no. I think we're working out, so we're looking at are you working out the wording
Yeah, I'm
here
trying
for
to-
it? Yeah.
Rodney, would this suffice? The sidewalk, okay, so the, subject to the following finding dated October 1 and October 6th and December 6th, where is the date supposed to
The
go?
date is up at the top. But
Oh, there, okay.
There's a blank there for the site plan dated second line. That's where you want October 1st and
Okay.
December 6th.
So, okay, subject to the following finding, that a sidewalk connecting to the building is not required on the plan due to the safety and security restrictions required by the state and federal regulations.
The only word I would change is required, just make not
Okay.
appropriate.
Okay. Not appropriate. Okay. Here we go. I move to approve the PSPR 24-03 combined preliminary and final site plan dated October 1 and December 6, 2024, for upgrades to the township's water treatment plant on approximately 13.5 acres of land at 5228 South Isabella Road, PID 14-035-20-001-02, in the northeast quarter of Section 35, finding that the site plan can comply with the applicable zoning ordinance requirements for preliminary and final site plan approval, including Sections 14.2.p, required site plan information, and 14.2.s, standards for site plan approval, subject to the following finding. A sidewalk connecting to the building is not appropriate on the plan due to the safety and security restrictions required by the state and federal regulations.
Support. With gratitude.
Okay, so the motion was successfully made by Lapp, and it was seconded by Olver. And she's got it written down, so if you need assistance with getting it into the minutes, y'all can kind of combine notes at the end. Any further discussion of the motion?
Just on inquiry, then this goes to the township trustees for approval with our recommendation, or
No, this is site plan, so it's
This
us.
is the good, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Waring,
Yes.
Squadrito,
Yes.
Shingles,
Yes.
Lapp,
Yes.
Wolver,
Yes.
and Hayes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good luck with the project.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to enjoying the water.
If anybody is interested, I'd be happy to take you through the plan, either before or after we do our expansion.
Definitely.
That would be really interesting.
Just get in touch with me and I'd be happy to take you through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that was our only new business item. So we're ready to move on to extended public comment. So if there's anybody who would like to address the Planning Commission on any item, whether it was on tonight's agenda or not, they're invited to do so at this time. We ask you again, give us your name and address for the minutes, and limit your comments to 5 minutes on any issue. And if you're online, just make your presence known and we'll make sure that you can speak. So extended public comments open at 7:58.
It looks like Jennifer has her hand raised.
Does she? Okay.
Oh,
Then
thank you.
I re-
No, I just wanted to thank Planning Commission. I especially wanted to thank staff for Rodney and Peter. I appreciate all your time and effort with this project and support. And, no, again, we are very excited to get this moving ahead. And I think I heard Kim, yeah, it would be great at some point when we get the improvements done and kind of have a walkthrough, so that, again, give everybody opportunity to see the process and, you know, what a great job staff does to maintain the facilities. So, thank you again. And hope everybody has happy holidays.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, so again, we thank the public for their comments, and we'll go ahead and close that back up at 7:59. Next item is final board comments, so any comments from commissioners?
I would just note on my latest trip to Menards to get some more Christmas lights, I did notice the Valvoline project is underway for those who may not have been over there so far. So, no big chicken just yet.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on over there. Is it just Valvoline, or did they even start the 2 restaurants?
The restaurants will be coming back to you. They only received preliminary site plan.
Oh, that's right, okay.
But there is some activity over there by them related to misting requests, I believe, because I've seen some of those come through that look like they're involving the Leo's and Big Chicken site. So they are certainly working on their final engineering plans. At this point, they're dealing with all those outside agencies. I think the biggest item that they have to work with is the stormwater management, because as I understand it, they're going to be working with Walmart to try to arrange something where they can connect into the Walmart connection into the regional stormwater system. So
Okay.
we'll probably see them early in the new year.
One other thing I wanted to mention was, I believe Peter sent around an email, I don't know if you sent it to everyone, from the Michigan Association of Planning regarding trainings that are coming up in 2025. They tend to be seasonal. There's a big wave of them in March. And some of them are in person, some like Frankenmuth and other places, and some of them are online. And particularly for new people, I guess the one that we typically, people have been to in the past is Planning and Zoning Essentials, which is the most general one. But all of them are good, and they're presented by people like Rodney, professional folks. In fact, I think he did one that I attended once before he came to work here. But you know, I've been to a bunch over the years, and I think they're really useful, and I would encourage people to look into that. And if you ask Peter, he can register you through the township, and it can be paid directly by the township, so you don't even have to incur the expense and get reimbursed. But anyway, have a look at that. Maybe send us a reminder if you get a chance.
We do have a good budget for training for the planning commission, so please definitely take advantage of it.
Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, I will remind commissioners we do have cookies tonight, so get some on your way out. We've completed our relatively brief agenda, so wish everyone great holidays, and we'll adjourn until January.
Here, here.